In the dazzling world of show business, few relationships have captivated fans and fueled speculation as much as the decades-long bond between Diana Ross and Michael Jackson. Both towering figures in music, they shared not only fame and talent but also an emotional connection that remained largely private for decades. Now, at 81, Diana Ross has begun to reflect openly on her life, career, and most poignantly, on her complicated and enduring relationship with Michael Jackson. Their story is not one of scandal, but of deep admiration, artistic synergy, and a layered emotional bond that often blurred the lines between maternal love, friendship, and perhaps something more profound. As Diana Ross enters the twilight of her remarkable career, she has finally begun to offer heartfelt insights, revealing what Michael Jackson truly meant to her, why she protected him during his darkest times, and how their relationship shaped the course of pop music history. This video seeks to piece together that extraordinary relationship, from the first moment they met at Motown, to the heights of superstardom, through moments of controversy, love, and ultimately, legacy. Drawing on interviews, archival material, music history, and Ross's own recent reflections, this is not a tale of confession in the tabloid sense, but a revelation of love, loyalty, and truth that was hidden in plain sight. Let's begin where it all started. The year was 1969. The world was changing, and so was music. In the midst of civil rights struggles, moon landings, and anti-war protests, a sound was emerging from Detroit that would change popular music forever: Motown. It was here, at the height of her fame with the Supremes, that Diana Ross was asked to introduce a young group of boys to the world. That group was the Jackson 5, led by an 11-year-old prodigy named Michael Jackson. The Motown strategy, Diana Ross presents. Motown founder Berry Gordy, who was also romantically involved with Ross at the time, understood the power of branding. Though the Jackson 5 were discovered by Bobby Taylor and Gladys Knight, Gordy believed Ross's fame would serve as a perfect launching pad for the young group. Thus, their debut album was titled Diana Ross Presents the Jackson 5. Ross was not their true discoverer, but she embraced the role. She introduced the boys on TV and took them under her wing, especially Michael, who was soft-spoken, intelligent, and already an artistic genius in the making. "I saw something magical in Michael from the moment we met," Ross later recalled in an interview. "He was beyond his years. He watched everything. He absorbed the world like a sponge." Michael's immediate connection to Diana. To young Michael, Diana Ross wasn't just a mentor, she was mesmerizing. Elegant, powerful, glamorous. Michael later admitted in several interviews that he was in love with her as a boy. Her presence was comforting, and she was one of the few women in his life who seemed to understand his introverted nature. Their chemistry was visible to anyone who saw them together. On TV specials, interviews, and early promotional appearances, Michael's eyes would often linger on Ross. He admired her grace, her discipline, and her ability to command a room. But what Diana saw in Michael was equally powerful. In him, she saw the future, not just of music, but of performance, art, and black excellence on a global stage. As the 1970s progressed, Diana Ross transitioned into a solo career, and Michael Jackson, still part of the Jackson 5, continued to shine. Despite their diverging paths, their bond remained strong. Diana frequently invited Michael to her home in Beverly Hills. He would spend hours watching movies, studying choreography, and engaging in long conversations with her. In interviews, he often called Ross a second mother, and once said, "She taught me how to be a star." Michael eventually moved into a guest house behind Diana's estate, living there for nearly a year. He was 18 at the time. In many ways, this was his first experience with real independence. He was away from the intense scrutiny of his father Joe Jackson, and for the first time, he had a private space to explore his creativity and personal identity. Ross, by this time, was a mother herself and well into her film career, with Lady Sings the Blues earning her an Oscar nomination. She provided emotional and maternal support to Michael, allowing him to develop without judgment. "Michael was incredibly shy and sensitive," she said years later. "He needed someone who could be soft with him. I just let him be himself." While Michael idolized Ross, Ross maintained boundaries. She was affectionate and protective, but never exploitative. Rumors would swirl for years about the nature of their relationship, with some speculating that it crossed into romantic territory. But Ross consistently denied this. "He was like my child," she said in an interview with Rolling Stone. "There was love, yes. But it was pure love. There was nothing inappropriate." In fact, Ross was one of the few people who could speak frankly to Michael. When his fashion choices or behavior attracted ridicule or concern, she would pull him aside and speak honestly, always with love. Michael, in turn, dedicated songs to her, referenced her in his music, and spoke of her with unwavering devotion. Their relationship, though unusual by Hollywood standards, was real. Michael Jackson's feelings for Diana Ross were more than admiration. As he grew older, it became clear that his love for her was layered deep, and perhaps at times romantic, though likely unreciprocated in that way. In a 1982 interview, Michael made headlines by admitting, "My first love? That was Diana Ross. I still love her. I always will." For fans and the press, this was a sensational soundbite. But for Michael, it was an emotional truth. His diaries and later interviews reflected a consistent pattern. Diana Ross was the woman he adored above all others. Some of his early songs echoed this longing. "The Lady in My Life," "Liberian Girl," and even "Dirty Diana" were all speculated to be inspired, at least in part, by his affection for Ross. Biographers including J. Randy Taraborelli, who knew both Ross and Jackson personally, have written extensively about this dynamic. Taraborelli noted that Michael held a torch for Ross well into adulthood. He would reportedly send her flowers, handwritten notes, and gifts, even while he was dating others. But Ross, ever composed, never encouraged more than what she could offer: friendship, trust, and emotional support. Michael had this immense heart, Ross said in an interview after his death. But he was lonely. Very lonely. "I think people misunderstood that. He didn't need a lover. He needed someone who believed in him." Despite Ross's denials of any romantic involvement, the energy between them was complex. They had undeniable chemistry, even on stage. From the Jacksons' variety show to Michael's solo appearances, whenever Ross joined him, the connection was electric. Still, Diana understood the importance of preserving their bond in a way that wouldn't hurt either of them. She never led him on, nor did she ever embarrass him in public. Her silence during times of public speculation was not avoidance, it was protection. "Some love is sacred," she once said. "It's not for the cameras." By the 1980s, both Diana Ross and Michael Jackson had ascended to the highest levels of superstardom. Diana had already transitioned from being a Motown icon to a Hollywood star, while Michael, fresh from the success of Off the Wall, was preparing to change the world with Thriller. Despite their busy lives, their bond remained intact, even as they began to live in two very different worlds. When Thriller was released in 1982, it was clear that Michael Jackson was no longer just a child star. He was becoming a cultural phenomenon. Diana Ross cheered him on from the sidelines, giving interviews praising his artistry and brilliance. In return, Michael never missed a chance to credit Ross for helping shape his career. During this era, their interactions became less frequent publicly but more intimate in private. Diana remained a trusted voice, someone Michael could call when he needed reassurance. She reportedly advised him during the Victory Tour and even helped him navigate the growing media frenzy surrounding his changing appearance and personal life. "Diana was one of the only people who truly understood what fame was like at that level," said longtime Jackson friend Frank Cascio. "He always felt safe with her." Despite their separate careers, they occasionally appeared together. At the 1984 American Music Awards, Diana Ross presented Michael with one of his awards. The way they embraced on stage sparked headlines and reignited fan speculation about their relationship. But behind the scenes, it was simply two lifelong friends celebrating success. Later, at the 1988 NAACP Image Awards, Michael paid tribute to Ross in a speech that left her in tears. "Everything I am, everything I have achieved, began with Miss Diana Ross. She's my inspiration, my mentor, and my forever friend." In return, Ross called Michael the brightest star of our time, and insisted that his heart was always in the right place, even when the world tried to tear him down. The 1990s and 2000s brought unprecedented challenges for Michael Jackson. Accusations, lawsuits, and tabloid coverage threatened to destroy his reputation and emotional well-being. While many celebrities distanced themselves from him, Diana Ross stood firm. Though she was not always vocal in the press, her loyalty never wavered. Behind the scenes, she remained a constant presence, offering private support when Michael needed it the most. In 1993, Michael was accused of child molestation, a charge that sent shockwaves across the globe. The media frenzy was immediate and brutal. While many celebrities went silent or offered ambiguous statements, Diana Ross maintained her silence not out of indifference, but as a calculated choice to protect both herself and Michael. According to biographer J. Randy Taraborelli, Diana spoke to Michael privately during this time and offered emotional support. She was concerned, but she also knew Michael's character well. She trusted that the truth would emerge. Diana didn't want to make public statements because she believed that anything she said would be twisted by the media, wrote Taraborelli. But make no mistake, she was there for Michael. In a rare public comment, Ross later said, "I believe in Michael's integrity and his heart. The world may try to bring him down, but I know who he really is." 12 years later, when Michael went on trial again in 2005, the stakes were even higher. He was physically weaker, emotionally drained, and under severe stress. While Ross did not appear in court, she reportedly reached out several times, offering her prayers and moral support. Unlike many of Michael's industry peers, who stayed silent or turned their backs, Ross was never among those who abandoned him. In fact, she was one of the very few high-profile names who refused to disassociate from him completely. Michael reportedly said during this time, "Diana has always stood by me. She doesn't need the cameras to prove her love." Ross's silence, once criticized, later became symbolic of quiet loyalty in a world dominated by public opinion. Perhaps the most surprising and symbolic indication of Michael Jackson's trust in Diana Ross came after his death, through the contents of his will. When Michael passed away in June 2009, the world mourned. But those close to him were stunned to discover that he had named Diana Ross as a backup guardian to his 3 children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket. Michael's will, written in 2002, explicitly named his mother, Catherine Jackson, as the primary guardian. But in the event of her death or incapacity, the next guardian listed was not a sibling, a cousin, or even a close friend. It was Diana Ross. "If Catherine Jackson fails to survive me or is unable or unwilling to act as guardian, I nominate Diana Ross as guardian," the will stated. This choice stunned even some of Jackson's family members. But for those who knew Michael well, it made perfect sense. Ross had been a stable, supportive figure in his life since childhood. She was elegant, disciplined, and nurturing. More importantly, he trusted her implicitly. Ross issued a brief statement in response to the will's revelation. "Michael was a unique and wonderful soul. I am honored by his trust in me, and I will always be there for his children if they ever need me." She did not seek custody of the children. Catherine Jackson remained their guardian, but Ross's quiet readiness reflected the depth of her relationship with Michael and his family. This legal gesture was more than a formality. It was a final, lasting acknowledgement of the person Michael felt safest with outside of his immediate family. In many ways, it was his last public declaration of love and trust in the woman who had helped shape his identity, his art, and his soul. The world may never know every word they shared, every emotional exchange behind closed doors, or every moment they spent as confidants. But this legal inclusion made one thing clear. For Michael, Diana Ross was not just a friend, mentor, or idol, she was family. Michael Jackson's untimely death on June 25, 2009, shook the world. At just 50 years old, the King of Pop's passing triggered a wave of grief, media frenzy, and public tributes. But for Diana Ross, the moment was not just a loss of a global icon, it was the heartbreaking end of a bond that spanned over 4 decades. Ross, who had always kept her emotions and private relationships shielded from media exploitation, responded to Michael's death in her own quiet, dignified way. While she did not appear at the public memorial at the Staples Center, her presence loomed large in the days and weeks that followed. Diana Ross did not attend Michael's globally televised memorial service in July 2009. This led to speculation in the media, with some interpreting her absence as detachment or emotional distance. However, those who knew her best understood the truth. She was devastated, and she chose to mourn privately. Shortly after Michael's death, Ross released a rare public statement. "I am trying to find closure, and I do not believe that a public memorial is the place to do that. I want to remember Michael in my own way. He was a dear friend and a member of my family. I loved him very much." This short but emotional message was consistent with how Ross had always approached a relationship with Michael. Guarded, personal, and deeply sincere. In the months before his death, Michael and Diana had reportedly spoken several times. While the contents of those conversations remain private, one source close to the Jackson family claimed that Michael had expressed love and concern for Diana, and spoke about reconnecting more regularly. According to biographer J. Randy Taraborelli, Michael had wanted Diana to meet his children more frequently and remain in their lives, just as she had been in his. Though busy with her own family and career, Ross had always made it clear she would be there for him if he needed her. Tragically, their last interaction would come just weeks before Michael's death. A call, a message, and then silence. Though Ross avoided public memorials, it's believed that she held her own private ceremony with close family and friends. There are no photos, no footage, no spectacle. "She mourned in silence," said a Motown associate. "She didn't want attention. She just wanted peace." Years later, during an appearance on Oprah's Masterclass, Ross finally opened up slightly, her voice soft and measured. "There are certain losses that don't heal the way others do. Michael, he was a part of my spirit. You can't replace that kind of love." Since Michael's passing, Diana Ross has honored his legacy quietly, but meaningfully. At some of her concerts, she has spoken his name with reverence. On multiple occasions, she's performed songs like Missing You, which fans have come to associate with her feelings about Michael. During a 2010 concert in New York, Ross addressed the audience before singing. "This next one is for someone I loved dearly. He was like my child, my friend, and my inspiration." Though she never named him outright, the audience knew. They stood, applauding and crying together. Ross closed her eyes and sang. Ross also supported several of Michael's charitable endeavors posthumously, including donating to children's health organizations and continuing her philanthropic efforts in ways that mirror his values. In 2019, on what would have been Michael's 60th birthday, Ross tweeted,
"Happy birthday, Michael.
I feel your spirit every day.
You are loved. You are missed."
Her message, simple and profound, reflected the depth of a relationship that defied labels and outlasted decades of fame, scandal, and change. Her relationship with Michael's children. Though Ross never took over guardianship of Michael's children, Katherine Jackson remained the matriarch. She kept her promise to be available. She has reportedly met with Prince, Paris, and Blanket on a few occasions and continues to keep an open door. In 2016, Paris Jackson posted a rare Instagram story featuring a photograph of herself with Diana Ross, smiling and hugging. The caption read,
"With the Queen.
Thank you for loving my dad. Thank you for being here." The post quickly went viral, reigniting public interest in Ross's quiet role in the Jackson family's post-Michael years. Michael Jackson was never shy about expressing himself through music. From his earliest hits with the Jackson 5 to his emotionally complex solo albums, Jackson used lyrics, melodies, and performances to speak truths he couldn't always articulate aloud. And when it came to Diana Ross, fans, scholars, and even family members have long believed that some of his most passionate songs were inspired by her. But where does the line between artistic expression and personal truth begin, or end? In 1982, Diana Ross released a sultry, seductive track titled Muscles. The song, written and produced by Michael Jackson, was a departure from her usual romantic ballads. The lyrics are playful and suggestive, describing a woman obsessed with a man's physical body, particularly his muscles. At first glance, the song appeared to be an offbeat, cheeky collaboration. But fans and insiders immediately speculated, was this Michael's way of expressing a private fantasy? Though neither Ross nor Jackson ever confirmed the inspiration behind the song publicly, Ross did acknowledge in interviews that Michael had a specific vision for the track. During one behind-the-scenes taping for the music video, Ross was asked about the lyrics and said, laughing, "You'd have to ask Michael what he was thinking when he wrote this one." Another controversial and widely debated track in the Jackson-Ross mythology is Dirty Diana, from Michael's 1987 album Bad. The song tells the story of a seductive groupie who disrupts the singer's life with her manipulative charms. At the time, fans and media speculated that Diana was a veiled reference to Ross. Michael, however, denied this directly.
In a press conference, he said,
"It's not about Diana Ross. It's not about Princess Diana either, even though she liked the song. It's a song about groupies." Still, the lyrics, combined with the real Diana's reaction, fueled curiosity. Ross reportedly wasn't pleased when she first heard the song's title and initially refused to comment. Years later, when asked again, she smiled and said,
"Michael liked to tease people.
He knew what he was doing with that title." As of 2025, Diana Ross is 81 years old, and though she has slowed down her career, she remains an enduring force in music and pop culture. In recent years, during interviews, speeches, and social media moments, Ross has become more reflective, finally acknowledging aspects of her life that she had once kept guarded, including her relationship with Michael Jackson. And while no single tell-all confession has been made, her recent words and tone reveal more truth than decades of silence ever could. In a 2023 interview with Variety, Ross was asked about legacy, aging, and those who shaped her journey. While she mentioned Berry Gordy, her children, and Motown, she paused notably when Michael Jackson's name was brought up. "Michael and I, that bond was very special. Not something I can explain in headlines. He wasn't just a colleague. He was a part of my soul." This simple, heartfelt answer struck fans who had followed their story for decades. Ross rarely spoke in such emotional terms about anyone, especially in a public setting. In another interview with CBS Sunday Morning in 2024, Ross was asked if she had any regrets. "Sometimes I wish I had told people more about how much Michael meant to me. Maybe I thought protecting him meant staying silent. But even silence has a sound, you know?" Following the controversial release of HBO's Leaving Neverland in 2019, which reignited debate about Michael Jackson's personal life and allegations, many celebrities distanced themselves from him. Diana Ross, however, made a rare public stand. In a tweet that went viral, she wrote, "This is what's on my heart this morning. I believe and trust that Michael Jackson was and is a magnificent, incredible force to me and to many." While some criticized her for defending him, others praised her courage, especially at a time when public opinion had turned harsh. Her statement wasn't legal defense, it was a human one. She knew the real Michael, said longtime friend Smokey Robinson. That's why she never turned her back.
Not even once.
In 2025, for her 81st birthday, Diana Ross appeared on a special broadcast tribute aired by BET and Lifetime. During the segment, Ross reflected on her career and offered a series of thank you messages. One, in particular, caught viewers off guard. "And to Michael, wherever you are, I hope you knew how much I loved you. How proud I was of you. You were never alone." It was the most direct, emotional statement she had ever made about Jackson in a public forum. Fans, critics, and entertainment outlets all responded with headlines. Diana Ross breaks her silence. Diana Ross finally speaks her heart about Michael Jackson. But to those who had watched her carefully over the years, this wasn't a sudden confession. It was the slow unfurling of a love story that had always been told in whispers. As Diana Ross enters the final chapter of her legendary life, her reflections have grown more open, honest, and personal. For decades, her relationship with Michael Jackson was a mystery, filled with speculation, affection, silence, and music. But at 81, Ross is no longer guarded. She's letting the world see the truth. Not a tabloid truth, not a scandal, but a deeply emotional human one. In a sit-down with People magazine in late 2024, Ross was asked about the many roles she played throughout her life: mother, artist, icon. The interviewer then asked, "If you had to describe your relationship with Michael Jackson in one word, what would it be?"
She paused, then smiled. Unconditional. She continued, "Michael trusted me, and I trusted him. I saw parts of him the world didn't. He was kind, gentle, brilliant, and fragile. He needed love, not judgment. I gave him mine without ever asking for anything in return." This statement, while subtle, finally answered a question the world had been asking for decades. What was really between Diana Ross and Michael Jackson? The answer: pure love. Without condition. Without labels. Without explanation. In a later podcast interview hosted by Gayle King, Ross offered her most moving quote to date. "Michael called me his mother, his sister, sometimes his love. I think he was all those things to me too. We didn't need a title. We just needed each other." This emotional reflection wasn't about revealing a romantic affair or confirming old rumors. It was about reclaiming the story. Taking back the narrative from tabloids and letting love, not scandal, be the headline. For Ross, the truth wasn't a single explosive statement. It was a lifetime of actions, protection, and belief in the person behind the myth. Diana Ross's heartfelt reflections, particularly her emotional remarks at 81, sent shockwaves across both the Jackson family and the global fanbase. The impact was swift, emotional, and in many ways healing. Michael's children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket (BG), responded with quiet gratitude. Though never very public about Ross, Paris Jackson posted a black and white photo of her father and Diana with the caption, "Thank you for loving my dad like we do." Prince Jackson, during a rare panel appearance at a humanitarian event in 2025, was asked about Diana's influence. His response was simple: "My dad trusted her. That tells you everything." While the rest of the Jackson family didn't issue official statements, sources close to the family shared that Diana remained deeply respected by Michael's siblings, especially Janet, who has always seen Ross as a trailblazer and maternal presence. Across social media, fans of both legends responded with an outpouring of love. Hashtags like #Diana and Michael Forever and #UnspokenBond trended globally. Documentaries and tribute videos went viral, and even mainstream news outlets like CNN and Rolling Stone featured Ross's final words to Michael as a key cultural moment. Her truth, told in her way, rekindled the human side of two iconic figures often lost in their fame. If this video helped you see Diana Ross and Michael Jackson in a new light, if you felt the love, the loyalty, the unspoken truth between two legends, then please don't forget to like this video to honor their bond. Subscribe to our channel for more true, untold stories from behind the spotlight. Share this with someone who loves music, truth, and the powerful beauty of connection. Thank you for watching. And remember, some stories don't need noise to be powerful. Just love.